Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be what I'm calling the battle of the CC creams. So I did a video about the Thrive Causemetics CC cream, and then I saw all the stuff about the e.l.f. Camo Cc Cream, and I was like, well, I have to try that out. And then I remembered that I used to love the IT Causmetics CC Cream. So what I decided to do was I tested each one of them out for a week, and then came back through and did a try on of each of the different ones, and then kind of showed you what they are at the end of the day so that you can see how they wore and everything. The only one that I did not do that with is the Thrive Causemetics one, because my end video is actually at the end of the day so you can see how it wore. I will tell you that this one is the best one on camera. As you can see, it does pick up very, very well. So I'm going to take you through the pros and cons of all three of these, the wear test, what my skin looks like before, what it looks like after, and who I would recommend it for. So definitely stay tuned, and yeah. So the first CC cream that I'm going to go through is the e.l.f. Camo Cc Cream. So this one I have been using. So what I've done with this, and I've kind of already said it in the intro, so I use these every week. So I use the e.l.f. one and the IT Causmetics one and the Thrive one each week. So when I was on vacation, I used just one just to kind of see, because I feel like when you're using a foundation or CC cream or whatever, it's really hard. Like, you can have the first impressions for the first day, but it's really hard to know how the foundation or CC cream or whatever it is really works with your skincare and everything, unless you use it for a week. So I like to use it for a week just to see, do I have any breakouts? How does it interact with my skincare? I like to kind of play with it and everything. So one thing that I found that I did not do for this video, because I wanted you guys to see, like, this is what it looks like, is I've been using a primer. So I've been using the Nyx Marshmallow Primer, and I absolutely love it. To be honest, I don't even know what the heck it does, but I feel like it really just primes my skin. It helps with the longevity, and it helps with the moisturization. But for this video, I did not put it on because I wanted you guys to see the true longevity of the foundation and what it looks like with just my normal skincare. So as you can see, I do have pretty much a lot, redness or whatever. I have some unevenness. I like to just kind of go in and buff that out. So the brush that I use is the IT Causmetics. I think this is the airbrushed one, but this is by far my favorite brush. I use it with pretty much everything, and I just really, really like it. So one question I always get is, well, why don't you use, if you only have redness to cover up or whatever, why don't you use a color corrector? I normally do, but for the intents and purposes of this video, I want to show you what it looks like without the color correction, because you may not have redness. You may have other things that you want to cover up. So I want to give the true, hey, this is it without any, things layered on top. So you can kind of see how it works with my skin type and see if it's something that will work with yours. So one thing right off the bat, you can see it does a really, really good job of covering. It does have SPF 30 in it. This is the lowest one out of all of the three. But it says that it's supposed to be color correcting, so it already has those properties within it. It's supposed to be full coverage, which I think it pretty much is, and it has a natural finish, which I think it does. So everything that it claims that it is, I feel like it really does a good job. The claims are accurate. So what I normally do after I go in with a brush is I will just go in with a dry beauty blender. Yes, a dry one, or this is the Real Techniques, but yes, a dry one. I do not like the damp one for whatever reason. Because my skin is so dry, I think that's probably the reason why the dampness doesn't work, which seems like it would, but it just seems like it takes a little bit longer for the product to kind of meld into my skin. And when I go in with a damp beauty blender, it just really kind of pushes the product all over the place and doesn't really push it into my skin. So I find with my dry skin, if I use a dry beauty blender, it helps to kind of push the product into the skin and helps to kind of even it out. So that is it with just today is my no wash day, hair day, and holy crap, it is so disgusting feeling. So it looks like, I feel like this is like cave woman hair. It's just kind of frizzy and kind of volumizing, but it's voluminous because it's greasy and not because I put any product in it. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. But anyways, you can see, I think it really, really does a good job with coverage. I love the fact, I mean, the pumping mechanism is great because you can pump out the exact amount that you want. That's consistent with all three of the CC creams that I'm reviewing. So you can go just a kind of a light wash of coverage, or you can go more full coverage depending on what you want for that particular day. And I think it just really does a good job of color correcting. I don't feel like I would have needed an additional color corrector to go under it. I feel like it does a really good job of kind of blending that out. It's very natural looking. So it's not a matte formula. It's not a dewy formula. It's that perfect kind of natural where it does kind of look like your skin. So it is something that if you do go a little bit lighter on the lighter end, you can really make it look very, very natural. But I even feel like this looks natural. I don't feel like anybody would necessarily look at me and go, okay, you got a full face of makeup on. And I did put a decent amount on. So let me come back this afternoon or later this evening to show you guys how it wore. My final thoughts on this CC cream. Okay, so I'm coming back at you at the end of the day. It's been about 13 and a half hours since I did my makeup. So you can kind of see here, I feel like for the most part, it held up very well. I do have some patchiness here, and here you can see that is my normal dry skin. I've tried everything. That's just my skin. But for the areas that are normal, I feel like the longevity was there. I feel like it still looks nice. It's not my favorite it's not the longest wearing CC cream or foundation that I've ever tried. To me, this is something that I would say is a day-to-day look. It's not something that I would particularly use if I was going to be going to like an event or had a big conference or a big, meeting at work or anything like that. This would not be my go-to. But for an everyday look, I feel like this held up really, really well. I like the finish. I like the fact that it's a natural finish. So for those of you who are dry, or who are oily and don't necessarily like a dewy finish, this would be perfect for you. It's not mattifying or anything like that, but it just doesn't have any glow to it. Obviously the price point it's on point. Definitely the cheapest one out of the three that I'm reviewing in this video. So if you're somebody who's on a budget or anything like that, definitely think it is a decent CC cream for you guys to check out. I do like the fact that it color corrects. I felt like throughout the day, my redness didn't poke through. I didn't miss the step of not color correcting. So overall, really, really happy with the CC cream and the way that it held up. Okay, so I'm going to use the It Cosmetics CC cream. So they come in obviously a larger size than this. I got the mini version. What I absolutely love about this is none of the other CC creams have a little mini version. So actually when I traveled recently, which hopefully will continue to be opened up. But when I traveled, I ended up taking this and it's the perfect size for like a plane or whatever. So that's the one benefit of going with It Cosmetics is they do have the smaller versions for the travel, but then it's also good if you don't want to fully commit to the bigger size because of the price. It's a little bit, I think it's like $15 or whatever. I'll put everything down below, but it's not as much of an investment if you're unsure if it's going to work for you, that sort of thing. The one downside to the small version is they don't have all the color options. So this is light, and the bigger versions, they do have more of a color range. I am like between colors. I feel like there's a light and then there's like a fair. I feel like I am not really the fair, but I'm not really the light. Like the light is a little bit too dark for me, but the fair is a little bit too light for me. So that's the one thing, kind of downside that I have is I'm not able to find like my perfect color shade, but it definitely is something that I can work with. So I always go in with the It Cosmetics. I believe this is the Airbrush foundation brush. I absolutely love this. I use this with every foundation, CC cream, everything that I use. Okay, so you can see The coverage is pretty good. It's a little bit yellow. The bigger versions have a little bit more of the undertone, so there is like a fair, kind of a rosy one, and that's actually probably one that would work better for my skin, but like I said, it's just a little bit too light. But because I used to use It Cosmetics, the CC cream, a long time ago, like when it first came out, and I absolutely loved it. It was so great because I felt like it was perfect for my skin because it was a little bit more, added a little bit more coverage, but I still felt like I was getting the skin benefits. But for this video, I haven't used it in such a long time, but it seems like since I've been using it for a week, I can tell you that it seems like the formulation is pretty much the same as when I used it several years ago. So that is that. They just came out with a little bit more color range, which is great, but I still think that they have a little bit of work to do as far as the color range. So I usually go in with a dry beauty blender like I've done before. I've already said it in the video, so I'm not gonna repeat myself, but definitely love that. So you can see here, definitely has the coverage. I put a medium amount on. I can definitely go in and put a little bit more on. Overall, really like the coverage. I feel like it covers up everything. As I talked before in some of my other videos, the only real thing that I'm trying to cover up is I do have redness, and then obviously just kind of evening out some of the uneven skin tone. I don't have acne or anything like that to cover up, but just definitely that eveningness or just kind of airbrushing my skin. I really do like this. It does have that color correcting. I will tell you, like I've said in the other video, I do like pairing this with the NYX Marshmallow Primer just because my skin is very dry. I feel like it just helps the product kind of mesh into my skin and provide a little bit more hydration. The one thing that I can say about this is it does have the anti-aging and hydrating serum, and I can't really feel the product on my skin, but I can feel that it's hydrating. Like even as it kind of dries and settles in, I feel like it's not sucking the moisture out of my skin, but it's not really adding any moisture. It's just sitting really nicely on my skin. So I do actually like it. But yeah, so I'm gonna go through, finish my makeup, go throughout the day, and I'll come back this evening, let you know how it wore and what my thoughts are on this one. Okay, so it is at the end of the day. It's been about 12 and a half hours since I did my makeup. And so this is what it looks like. I feel like this held up really well throughout the day. So yesterday when I did the e.l.f. one, I had like a big patch of just dryness where the e.l.f. one was kind of settling in and kind of emphasizing the dry patches. I have not noticed that on this foundation. It seems to have held up really well. I usually get kind of more flushed at the end of the day for whatever reason. I don't know. I usually take my vitamins at night or something, and maybe it's just the vitamin B flushing me, or niacin or whatever it's called. But anyways, I feel like it really held up throughout the day. I feel like it looked pretty on camera. It's not necessarily I would say it's a good go-to, like for a go-to, everyday look, but it's not like a going out look. Like this isn't a CC cream or anything like that I would gravitate towards if I was having a big event or anything like that. But I feel like the CC creams are kind of in that level. If I was going to an event or some kind of all day kind of thing, or even coming on camera, I would do something that's more for full coverage because I feel like it comes across a little better on camera. I do a lot of WebEx and Zoom calls, so I'm constantly on camera. I work from my house because of COVID. For a day-to-day look, I feel like it's a really good CC cream. What I really liked about it was I felt like it worked well with my dry skin. So if you're somebody who is dry to normal to dry, I feel like this CC cream is a good go-to for you. It definitely has that hydrating serum in it, so I think that's what makes it a little bit more manageable for dry skin. But I don't feel like it makes me look dewy or glowy or anything like that. So even if you're somebody who is a little bit more on the oily side, I think it's definitely a CC cream that you can get away with because it's not going to intensify. The finish is very natural, and but I just think it works really well with dry skin. So that is my review on this one. Okay, so I'm coming at you with the Blendable Blur CC Cream from Thrive Causemetics. So similar to the other CC creams, I'm gonna use my It Cosmetics brush. So it has a pump applicator similar to the other two that I reviewed. It does say that for sheer coverage, apply 1 pump. For full coverage, apply 2 to 3 pumps. I got mine in the color light. So one thing that I do like about pretty much all 3 of them, specifically this one, is you are able to get just a little bit, but you can get a full pump if you like. So I just go in and I dab it all over my face. Now you can build it up obviously, but I'm just going to show you what my normal like kind of day-to-day is. As you can see from my other videos, I pretty much have just redness to cover up and just discoloration. So it blends out really, really well with this It Cosmetic brush. I don't blend it out with anything else, so I can't tell you if it blends out or any of the other products blend out good with just a beauty blender or whatever. So after I blend it out, I just go in with my Real Techniques Beauty Blender, similar to what I did for everything else. I just find that this blends it in better. So as you can see, it does a really good job of covering. I feel like this one is probably the most natural looking. It does feel good on my skin and everything. Okay, so you saw the demo, everything. I wanted to come back through and kind of give you my final thoughts of what products I would recommend, which one I personally liked, which one I didn't, that sort of thing. So out of the 3 here, I'm gonna go with my least favorite, and that was the Thrive Causemetics Buildable Blur. That is what I'm wearing on my face right now. I think out of all 3 of them, this one is the one that translates the best on camera. When I look at myself on the camera, I feel like, okay, it looks really, really pretty. The other 2, I do not feel translated as well on camera. I also found that this one looked best on WebEx and Zoom calls. These 2 did not. But that's not why it's my least favorite. This is not something I would gravitate toward on a daily basis. To me, I found like it didn't work well with my skin. I feel like it looks pretty initially and it looks pretty in person, but it did break up in the middle of the day. And then even in my areas that I'm normal, throughout the end of the day, it did kind of break up in there. And I felt like it just didn't have the longevity that the other 2 did. So even though I feel like it's the best translation across camera, I just didn't like the way that it broke up. I found that it was the worst one with my dry skin as far as that breaking up and kind of accentuating my dry skin. It does have the most luminosity, I feel like all 3 of them, but it just kind of seemed weird because it didn't work well with my dry skin, even though it did have that luminosity. So this is one that I personally did not like. I gravitate to it, you know, from day to day. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, let me try it or whatever, but it's not something that I would necessarily wear on an everyday basis, especially when I'm doing Zoom calls or WebEx calls. And it's not something that I feel like I would go out in, or if I'm having an event or anything like that, just because I cannot trust the longevity of it. So the other thing that I do not like about it is, and I mentioned it before, is the fact that you have to get it off of a website. And that just makes the returns a little bit more challenging. So if you did purchase a color that didn't work with you, yes, you can return it, but it's just a little bit more work than just going to your Ulta or going to Walmart or whatever to, you know, if you picked up these 2. The other thing about it is shipping. So if you were just interested in getting this, then you wouldn't qualify for the free shipping unless they were doing some kind of promo. So in order to get the free shipping, you have to spend a certain amount of money, which means that you probably would pick up products that maybe you don't necessarily want or need. So the great thing about Ulta is when I go in Ulta, I can buy a variety of different products and get that free shipping. Whereas this one, I'd have to like force myself to pick up products that I may not want or need. So that is that one, not my favorite. So it comes down to these 2, and I kind of have a different, you know, recommendation for both of them. So me personally, I found like the It Cosmetics one worked best for my skin as far as the dryness. I did like the fact that it did have the hydration serum. I didn't feel like it had any dewy. It was a very natural finish. So if you're somebody who is normal to dry and don't necessarily want something that's dewy or luminous, then I think this will be a good option for you because it does have that hydration, but it's not dewy. The It Cosmetics, this is not highlighter, this is the dewiness, so you can kind of see that it does, you know, kind of have that gleam. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more natural, then this is your go-to. The other thing I liked about it was I felt like it was the one that not only looked best on my skin as far as my dry skin, but it also was the least one to accentuate my dry skin. And I keep going like this because this is the patch that I have the worst. Yes, I color correct. Yes, I exfoliate. I go to an esthetician. I go to a dermatologist. I just have crappy skin. It is what it is. But not necessarily a diss for the product, but I just found personally this one worked best for me. Like I mentioned before, this is not my favorite color. I don't have the yellow undertones, but I do like the fact that they do have other lines in the full version. I'm actually considering going to Ulta today to pick up maybe the fair one or the light one with the rosy undertones and see if I like that better. And then they also have the illumination one, which I'm interested in trying because I do personally like a little bit of glowiness. So if I can get this glowiness, but then in the IT Cosmetics formula with the hydration and that same kind of formula, but just a different finish, then it's a win for me. If you're somebody who does have dry skin, you do want something that's not luminous but something that works well with your skin, I think this one is a winner. It is more expensive than the e.l.f. one, but I feel like it just worked better and it looked better longer. Now, again, neither one of these I would recommend for on camera or doing Zoom calls or whatever, but for day to day, I think they're really, really pretty. The other thing I would not recommend either one of these for is for like a date night or, you know, like an event or whatever. To me, I personally like to do a little bit more full coverage if I'm going out or if I'm going to an event. These would not be my go-to. Maybe you're different. Obviously, everybody has their different things, but I would not recommend these for like a special event or anything like that. Now, as far as the e.l.f. one, I personally think it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't bad. What I would recommend this product for is if you're somebody who is on a budget and you don't necessarily want to spend $39.50 for the full version and you want to spend $14, 100%, I think you'll like this one just as good. The other thing that I think this would be good for is if you're somebody who has more of that normal to oily skin, I think this would work better for you. Again, if you're somebody who's on a little bit of the drier side, I think the IT Cosmetics is going to be better. But if you're somebody who is a little bit more on the other realm, then I think this is really good. I like both of them. I mean, I honestly and truly, I think they just work with different skin tones. I think they're the most of the dupe than the Thrive Causemetics. They do both have the collagen in it. They have the peptides. They have the niacin. They're both color correcting. They both, well, I mean, not this one, but the regular one, they both have similar packaging. I think they're a pretty good dupe version. But again, this one, I would say just a little bit more on the oily side. This one, a little bit more on the dry side, and then you'll be happy. So that is it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments below what you think, especially if you've tried the IT Cosmetics Illumination version. I would love to hear how that was, how it's different from the regular version. Like I said, I'm probably gonna go to Ulta today and pick it up because I'm very, very interested in it, but definitely would love to know your guys' takes on it. So please leave your comments below. If you have any questions, leave those below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, bye.